Now, back inside the application designer, we can open the application settings. Within the settings, we can select an application class, and here we can search for the ABAP class that we've just created in the SAP GUI. Now that our application is assigned to this application class, we can start to see that class here within the class viewer within the application designer. So we can see all of the methods here within our if-nad server interface, and then further down we can see our Ajax IDs that we added within the handle on Ajax method. And then here we can see the actual details of each method as well. So that's for the get contacts, and here for save contact. This is a very useful thing to view, as we can just copy and paste some of the names from here when we're building our application next. So let's set up our button on the page here. We'll just rename it to add contact, and then we'll copy and paste it, rename it to button sync, and then we can change the properties of this sync button to reflect its action. So we'll give it the text of sync, and we'll change the icon to this synchronize icon. If we save and activate, we can see that button added to the bottom of our app. It still has the navigation event on, so we can get rid of that, and instead what we want this button to do is to trigger an Ajax call. So we can drag and drop that into our resources of our application. Let's name it Ajax get contacts, and then the syntax to call this is very simple. You write get online and then the name of the Ajax that you want to call. Here we put the Ajax ID, so in this case we can just copy and paste the string from our class viewer. Here we can see the model where we can set where we want the data to be received into. However, so far we don't have anything for it to be received into, so when we synchronize we can see the call being made, however our response will be null. So let's set up our application with a component that can receive the data from our Ajax call. To do this, we'll search for a list component, and we'll drag and drop that into our page. Within the list, we can add a object list item. If we click back onto our list component, we can open the binding interface, and we can select empty contacts to be the structure that this list will expect, and then within the model we can select to receive the data from our Ajax call. Now we can start to bind to the properties within our object list item. So let's bind the title to be the first name of our contact. We can bind the next property, the number, to the age of our contact, and then let's also bind the intro to the last name of the contact. Now if we save and activate, we'll see our list on the page, but it will have no data. And even if we synchronize, we still won't see any data, as we don't have any entries in our table. So now let's set up the next page with a form that can capture data and save it to the table. So we'll add a simple form to our second page, and then if we drag and drop our second page above the first one, it will be the first page that we view when we activate and preview the app. So now we can work on our simple form without having to click through to the second page every time. Let's set the binding here to the MS contact, and now with that binding set up, we can use the wizard to automatically generate all of the fields that we want as input fields in our form. So we can save and activate, and there we have it. We can see each label is generated based on the data element that we set within our table for each property, and a few of the ones we picked aren't entirely appropriate, so we can just manually rename them. So here we'll change package size to age, and we'll change description to comments. Now if we save and activate, we can see those changes reflected straight away on the page, and then we'll just change one property in the simple form we'll change editable to true, and all this will do is align all of our labels with each input field so it looks a little bit nicer. Next, let's set up the save action, which will take the data from our simple form and send it to the table. So let's create a footer, add it to our page, and then within our footer we'll add a bar content. We'll set its position to middle, and then within the bar content we can add a button. Let's have this button named save. Let's add an appropriate text for it and an icon too. If we save and activate, we can see that button now on the bottom of our page. Next, let's set up the Ajax event to save the data from the form. So we'll grab a new Ajax component, add it to our resources, and we'll call it the save contact Ajax call. And we know that this is going to call the string save contacts within our class. So let's set up the press event for our save button. Here we'll add get online and then the name of our Ajax save contact. Now within the model here we'll set to send the data from our simple form. To do that we simply select the tick here. However, we don't want to receive the data back into our list, but we are returning the MS result. So let's add another model to our application here, which will hold the result data for us. So we'll add model object. We can rename this to temp object. We'll add the binding as the MS result, which contains all of our result information. And now within our save contact Ajax call, we can set to receive from this Ajax call into our temp object. Now we can set up the Ajax success event, and this event is called when the Ajax call has finished successfully. So within here, let's add some JavaScript. We'll add, using the code snippets, an if statement, and then we'll use another code snippet, the message toast simple, which will allow us to show a message on the user interface. So here we'll set our first condition, and this will check if our temp object model, and you write that with model temp object, if we do a .get data on that and we look at the type of the data, we'll see if it's equal to E, and E will stand for error. So if there is an error with our save method, so even if it returns successfully but it successfully returns an error, this will be triggered and we'll look to just print the message which we set up within the class. We'll do the same for S as well, for a success message, and then we'll add this else statement to catch it just in case it's anything else, saying task complete. Now if we save and activate, let's run our app in a new tab and let's fill in some test information. If we open the network log, we can see the request being made, we can see the MS contact passing that data through, and we saw the message toast on the screen as well, showing our successful message. And here's the response from our save Ajax call. Let's head back to our app designer. We'll head back and swap our pages back around, so now our page contacts is the first page of our app. If we press the sync button, we can double check the network to see if we're getting our data, and at the moment the response is still null. And this is a simple fix. We just go back into our get contacts Ajax, and then we can set to receive the data into our list. With that set up, the data knows where to go. So if we try one more time, we can refresh, press sync, and now here we can see some test entries that I've added already. We can look at the response of the network call, and here we can see all of the data coming through to our list. Let's close down the developer tools, head back to our add contact page. We'll just add one more test contact here, and we'll head back to our list, and if we refresh, we can see that reflecting in our list straight away. Let's add a bit more functionality to our application here. Back within the app designer, let's set up our Ajax success event. So once we have successfully saved a contact, we'll navigate back to our main page. So we'll open the save contact Ajax success event, and we can just copy and paste our navigation from our button into this event. We also can resynchronize the data. So to do this, we can grab our button name and add the .firePress event to it, which will just press the button once we have navigated back to the main page. Let's also set our app up to synchronize as soon as it loads. So to do this, we can add a script, use the code snippets to add some init functions to our script. We're going to use this first one, and let's just add the getOnline Ajax get contacts into this init event. So now as soon as our app loads, it's already synchronized the data for us. Now when we add a new contact, on the success event, it will navigate us back to the main page and synchronize the data. Next, let's set up our app so when we click on any of these items, it will open the next page with the data that we've clicked on. To do this, we'll need to utilize the press event of our object list item. Let's use the code snippets, scroll down to the SAP M list section, and we'll add the get selected row code snippet. We can get rid of the second half as that's related to O data. We can remove this middle part, and we can just use these two main functional lines, which will get the binding context and then get the data for that context. Here, if we console log data, you can see exactly what this is doing within the application. So let's preview the app, open the console, and if we click on any of our list items, we can see nothing's printing yet. And that's simply because we need to change one setting. Here within the object list item, we need to set the type to active. This means that we can actually click on the items within the list. So here, let's open the console again, and now we can see the object being printed whenever we click on any of the items. So now let's add to this press event, and what we're going to do is send the data to our simple form. So we just simply type model simple form dot set data, and then here we add the data in. Once we've done that, let's navigate to the page as well. So to do this, we can just copy and paste the navigation from our add contact press event. Now, whenever we click on any of the list items, we'll see it will populate the form with the data from whichever one we've clicked on. However, when we press add contact, we can see the data is still present in the page. So to fix this, we can just add to our press event for our add contact button. We can simply set the model of our simple form to an empty object, and this will clear all the fields. So now we can click on any list item and it will show all the data, and if we press add contact, it will show an empty form. Here we can now make a change. If we change the key, then what will actually happen is it will generate a new entry based on that key. So here we have the original record still, and we can make a change to this as well. We'll change first name to test. We can see within the network that's saving and refreshing, and within our list now we have a 123 test and just a standard 123 item. So here we can see the second one has the email 999, which is the new one we changed, and since it has a unique key, it's generated a new record. And here's the original record with its updated first name. Now, let's test this a little bit more. We'll add some new comments to this record. We'll hit save, and if we go back in, we can see those comments are now saving successfully. Next, let's add some more logic to the AJAX success of our getContacts AJAX call. We'll add our message toast in here, just to inform the user that everything has refreshed successfully. So now with that logic in place, we know that that AJAX is called as soon as our app loads, so we see the refreshed message toast. If we update one of these comments again, we can save, we can see it's refreshed again. And of course, if we press the sync button, then we'll get the same message come through. Finally, let's add a search to our application. This is really easy to do. Let's add a subheader to our page contacts. We'll add a bar content in the position middle, and let's add a search field into that. Now, if we save and activate, we can see that search field at the top of our app, and by default, it's not going to do anything. So let's set up the live change event, which is fired every time that a key is pressed within the search field. So we'll add a code snippet here to filter our SAP M list. And we're going to utilize not this first section or the second one, but this third one here, where you can use multiple filters with an OR statement. So we can simply highlight this, uncomment it, and it's a very simple setup. We swap the name of our list in here, where it says your list. We set the field 1 and field 2 to be the properties we want to filter by. In this case, we can just copy and paste the name of the property, and we just keep the end of it here. So first name and last name will be the two things we want to filter by. And then this function is simply going to check if those properties contain this value. And this .getValue will simply get the value that we're typing into the search field. And here you can see AND is false, so it will return OR. Now, with that set up, we can test it. So we'll save, activate, head back to the preview, and now anything typed in this search field will filter the first name or the last name that matches our query.